Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Blue Truth and Bourbon. I'm your host, Steve. And I know that we posted online that we were going to have special guest Andy Fry with us, former Secret Service and local police officer here in Florida, uh, talking about some stuff tonight. I threw an extra special guest in on top of you. Brian Skowski is with us tonight, also former law enforcement. Um, we'll let him decide later on if he wants to talk about what he's been doing and where the things he's been doing in his life and what he's doing now. So, guys, thanks for being here. So,
Thanks for having us.
as we get started tonight, I told you guys we're going to be talking. Let me take these off because I'm shining back in my own face here. I can't see anything now, but you guys can tell me if anything's going wrong. Like I always say, if you're here and you're watching us, make sure you give us a shout so we know you're here because I can tell how many people are watching. I just can't tell who's watching. So, feel free to comment, throw your concerns out there. Just understand any trolls or anybody that gets on here and starts acting stupid. I can't delete you during the show, but I can delete you after the show. So I don't mind you having different opinions, but we're not going to get on here and call names and be ugly to other people. So good to be back. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on here. Tonight, you can see the name of the show there is How Safe Do You Really Feel? We're going to jump into that here in a little bit. Again, guys, thanks for being here. And I'm going to jump on a soapbox here for just a second, and you guys can comment on this as well because I saw something today. I was running around on one of the Facebook pages that I belong to for retired cops where I worked, and there was a post showing that one of the sections had a lunch for their FTOs to show their appreciation for them. And of course, I always get amused by that. And I had to comment on the post and I said, awesome. I said, food is always a great motivator. It really tells people how much you care about them. And I had one person giggle at it. The rest of the people, they probably deleted the comment by now, to be honest with you, because I like the guy who runs the page. We worked together for a long time, but I don't think he likes for me to talk negative about the agency. So, but I mean, you're giving guys free food who can go out and get free food pretty much anywhere. I mean, so how much are you motivating them? I said, I would much more appreciate an email from the sheriff explaining how well we've been doing, or hey, better yet, a unit citation. Give us a ribbon to show us how much, not that means anything else other than it's a ribbon, but it at least kind of is something that I can show off and something I can feel good about rather than, I got heartburn because you felt good about me today. So, it's the typical pizza party. They bring you the leftover pizza from the staff meeting and they go, here, we really feel great about you guys. You've done a great job. And I get it, some of the FTOs, maybe they're not the greatest FTOs, so you don't want to give them a ribbon or anything. So you just give them a free lunch. That way, kind of shotgun theory of management, you give everybody the same shit.
Yeah.
So instead of letting the guys that you really care about know what to care about them. Hey, just I don't know how many memes you have to see about the pizza party for cops to recognize that that's probably not the greatest, that's not something that, you're going to get kudos for, or, you're trying to tell about how good your agency is and brag about your people, but instead you do a comic book photo cover with the leader of the agency standing in the Superman uniform, green Superman uniform, trying to get people to come on board, especially when more than half your agency has said they wouldn't recommend the place, as a place to work. So, you guys ever have pizza parties? I'm sure you did.
No, man, I tell you, I think I took it. I took it for granted. Everything good?
I don't know why it is doing this again. Brian,
I'm here.
I can't hear you guys either. What is the deal?
Brian, I can hear you.
Yeah,
I don't remember because the last time I know what happened, I forgot to have my dang board plugged in.
Murphy, baby, you got to go live and it all goes up.
Try to figure this out. It's funny, before we go live, I can hear everything you guys are saying, and then I add you to this, and nothing comes through. Let's see what my settings are on.
Well, the audience can hear all of it.
Settings are on my side. I thought. You guys can hear everyone, but I can't hear everyone. That's great. And I think that's what was happening last time is you guys could hear him. So here's what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to log on to my own show. And I'm going to have to watch my show so I can hear you guys talk. So,
Can you hear us now?
Yep, there we go.
All right.
It's going to be a show so I can hear you guys talk. So I'm sure you guys had pizza parties.
Yeah, I was starting to say I took it for granted, man. Orlando PD, my entire chain of command was constantly giving attaboys when attaboys were due.
What the hell?
You know, I was starting to say show up at lineup, tell you you're doing a great job. I think the leadership during my career did an excellent job of that. A pizza party would have been so weird and so just completely out of context. I'm glad to have worked for some really, really great leaders. So I think the leadership during Brian spent a hell of a lot more time as an FTO than I did. Brian, did you guys have pizza parties?
No, we didn't have FTO. We didn't have FTO pizza parties.
Yeah.
So I mean, I had two squads. Especially my last one with Kevin Hirsch being our sergeant, we would set barbecues on a regular on Sundays. You know, and those were great. That you know, that was a squad function. You know, I had one other patrol squad. We did it a couple times, but that was probably a squad I did it the most. But I mean, we talk about old school leadership. We go back to early in my career, and we had two of our watch commanders close down Lake Underhill Park so they could host a barbecue for all on-duty personnel.
Nice.
When we talk about old school leadership, go back to early in my career, we had two of our watch commanders close down.
This really sucks that I can't hear you guys while you're talking because when you stop talking, I can't. I don't know when you guys have stopped talking, so I have to listen to this stupid. I don't know why it does this. I don't know what is happening on my end that I am not doing correct. Oh, you know what it is? Hold on. Maybe. Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you.
I can still hear you.
Wow, it's still not doing anything. All right, I'm going to do something real quick.
I can't hear you, Steve. If you're talking.
Can you guys hear?
I can hear you, but I think Andy's gone.
I just lost him. Andy, log back in.
Can you hear me?
There he goes. Yes, I can hear you now. I don't know what that was.
Gotcha.
I don't know what it was. So, all right. Who's still out there watching us? Can you guys hear me and everybody else now? I know Marshall was watching just a little bit ago. Hopefully we didn't screw everything up. So yeah, we talked about the pizza parties and the leadership and how I think it's just so many guys are out of touch. And Brian, we talked through text message earlier, and you touched on it, and you were talking about the lack of an informal leadership and the lack of paramilitary leadership. It's like, there's a command staff that's in charge, and if it doesn't come from them, it doesn't mean anything anymore. There's just no, the sergeants aren't allowed to do jobs anymore. So yeah, like I said, people that are just out of touch with this crap, and it's time that we get leaders back in place that, we're not having pizza parties, we're not having lunches. We're standing behind our folks. We're actually, committed to making these people better and building them up instead of, having our fingers on control of everything. And so, yeah, I mean, that's where we're at these days. We know that. So, yeah, let's talk about this. Andy and I talked about this a little bit before Brian logged into the show, and I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves again. So, Brian, if you want to go ahead and tell everybody who you are and what you're about.
Good evening, everybody. I guess as of 2 weeks ago, I wrapped up my 26-year, 27-year career with the Orlando Police Department. I've officially hung it all up after doing 5 years as a reserve at the end of 21 sworn full time. Currently work for the largest police union in the country. And I'll be walking away from that role in full time, and then be transitioning back to a full time role with Axon here in the next few days. So definitely
And
excited.
you've
to
done that
that.
before. I know when you were at OPD, you were doing a lot of stuff with Axon, so you were kind of their ears on the ground. So that's good. Good that you're getting back into that, and at least somebody with it's what I always hated when people came to the agency and they were salesmen and they were like when we got the new CAD system and stuff like that, and none of them had been cops. So, when we were asking, okay, look, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this with this computer system? And they're like, you don't need that. No, yeah, we do. So having somebody like you who's been on the job, who's understands what is a need out there in a place like that, especially with the way technology is today, we're not getting away from Axon. We're not getting away from body cams. We're not getting away from tasers. This is where we're at. And so having somebody that's not only done the police work, but also has done the work with Axon that you've done, having you in a position like that, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's just a smart thing to do. So good for you. I'm glad you got that going on.
Appreciate
And,
it.
you're still real young, so a chance to impact a lot of people and help a lot of people. I know you're going to be here locally doing all that stuff, so it's good to know that somebody with some smarts. All I can tell you is just fly under the radar. Don't give them an opportunity because it's just crap over different places. But I know. So, Andy, how about you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Junior got here to you guys. 12 years law enforcement before I got too banged up and medically retired. But started with Secret Service Uniform Division in DC, and left there. Got sick and tired of DC. Came to Orlando and ended my career over there. And that's a bunch of fun units as a cop. Pretty much doing proactive stuff my entire career. So got to work for.
And who was your best FTO? I mean, come on.
Man, I'd have to think about that. Of course, Brian was my second phase FTO at Orlando, and man, what a great introduction to the city of Orlando. You're talking about the best guy for taser stuff. I mean, not only is he a great street cop, but he's been there since the infancy of taser, the body cams, you name it. He knows the entire history of it at OPD, and there's not a better guy that agency could ask for to head up that program. So Brian, congrats, man. Long time coming and well deserved.
Yeah,
appreciate
it. Exactly. So just checking my answers. Oh, never mind. Checking my text messages to make sure that nobody was giving me any crap over the. So somebody said they're hearing static, so I turned my fan off. So if I start sweating over here and my shirt turns, dark green, you know why. So yeah, I mean, these guys, we've done some work together outside of law enforcement together. So lots of fun. Most of the time it's just us getting together for the weekend, making lots of money and enjoying our time together because it's not real hard work. So, but I got these guys on here tonight and I want to talk to them and get their opinions as well as their expertise on this kind of subject. I know you guys are hearing some static. I don't know that it's going to get any better. I got a storm in my area right now, so that's probably part of it. But yeah, so how safe do you really feel? And the reason I asked that question is because I recently watched a county commission meeting where a chief of or a leader from a leader is a bad word too. So a person who runs an agency was in front of the commission talking about their budget and needing some more money. And one thing that I heard, and one thing that I always hear, whether it's a chief of police, whether it's a sheriff, it doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. The thing that I always hear in these commission meetings and in news conferences and you name it. I mean, if you see them on TV, this is what they're saying. But they like to talk about overall crime is down, and they use that word overall. And a lot of people are just willing to accept that word overall as meaning everything's fine, crime is down, and it's deceptive at its core. And the media is fine with it. They don't ask the hard hitting questions. They don't ask the bounce back questions from that. And so a lot of information or misinformation gets doled out there. And so have you guys seen that? I mean, what are your feelings on people using overall?
It seems like it's rampant right now, and I would say in especially during the last administration, sadly, it seemed like they were really trying to hide the massive violent culture this country has gone to. I mean, during COVID, I think it really knocked things up, and then getting really weak on law enforcement due to the last, say, 8 years or so. Some major national incidents that we all know. I feel like criminals think it's a free for all right now, and sadly, a lot of them are correct. There's a lot of law enforcement that is, whether right or wrong, sitting back, not doing very much police work, and you've got a young culture coming in right now that isn't being exposed to the type of very proactive law enforcement that we were all fortunate to be a part of and trained to do. And I think that creates a perfect storm for violence to just get out of control. And when I hear that, it's like I don't know of any city right now where a family member or a friend or me or anybody that's gone to where they're like, yeah, Houston was wonderful, or you name it. I mean, like every big city, Nashville, Tennessee. I went there first time, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years ago. Felt super safe. Last time I went there, things are even in Nashville. You'd think it's a super safe city. A lot different. I hadn't been downtown Orlando in quite a while until I ended up working a detail down there for one of the basketball games. And I was heartbroken, man, just to see the kind of stuff going on down there and what people are getting away with. It's like, wow, we spent a lot of time down here and did a lot of police work to clean this place up, and all for what, so politicians can say the crime's down, everything's safe. And
Right.
Anyone that goes into whatever large city you live near, they know the truth, man. I mean, there's nobody that lives outside of a metro area that goes to town and says, wow, this is so much nicer. Even in the suburbs, I feel like the burglary stuff is up, and it's a different country right now.
Yeah. Ryan, how about you? When you hear that word overall, I mean, because the majority of people out there that have never been in law enforcement, never are not related to law enforcement or anything, when they hear overall, I don't think they hear that word over. They just hear all. It's like they just assume that overall means everything.
Well, and I'm going to say a lot of it is blind ignorance, because if you work in the area, I mean, if you work in any aspect of safety, security, law enforcement, the number one crime that really impacts the stats are property crimes. So if you lower one aspect of property crimes, it's generally going to bring your crime stats overall down. Right. And I'll be honest, and everybody can report it different ways. I can't remember the last time I walked into any big box store, everything from your Target to your Best Buy, where I didn't see them confronting somebody that was trying to walk out of the store without paying. And it's ridiculous that you got to go shopping and turn a blind eye to it, because it's not our role anymore. But at what point do people finally say enough is enough? Now you've seen all the retailers, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, they just, in the areas that they're getting tore up in crime, They just decide, you know what, we're leaving.
Yeah.
Or
they lock everything down. You can't walk into a Walgreens or a CVS right now and get, razor blades, yeah, but without having to call over, hey, come here, clerk. I need, 5 of these because I got to shave my face for the next month. It's and even more now, it's more things. It's not just, the razor blades and the pregnancy tests and the condoms and stuff everything. Everything goes on lockdown now with these places, because they're tired of dealing with the people coming in and stealing. You're exactly right.
Well, and the other thing that people, I don't know, maybe they do or don't realize it, because I think a lot of people rely on online shopping, but that's great until you got to fix something at 7 o'clock at night. So you've got to go to the store and buy it.
Right.
Well, now you look at the shelves and there's just one or two of everything on there, because
Yeah.
either they're only stocking at that level, or somebody ran in there with a shopping cart, filled it up, and ran out the door, and then they're selling it, black market, so to speak.
Yeah, and honestly, I worked at, we will call it a major theme park, where I've watched ex-employees of that major theme park walk in with a trash bag, walk up to a store, and just swipe the entire row, the entire section of stuffed animals or stuffed characters off the shelf and try to walk out the store or whatever. And you're like, okay, what do you want to do with them? Oh, we're just going to trespass them. And so not only has the crime itself become more rampant, but the toleration, is that a word? Toleration? Tolerating what's going on, and the fear of being canceled for, prosecuting somebody for stuff like that has just become even more rampant, that, we've allowed, because I mean, there's plenty of places that I won't mention names, but there's a place that likes to sell women's undergarments,
Hmm.
and they won't report crime until the day afterwards because they don't want any interaction with their employees trying to fight these people or cops trying to take these people down. And so the more you allow that, the more, like Andy said, these criminals realize, hey, there's no consequences for what we're doing, so why stop? So
Well, I'll piggyback on that. That same retailer, at their number one sales store in our area, they will not report theft unless it's a financial crime,
right.
because their directions are their sales outweigh the shrink. So unless there's bigger repercussions so that it's a financial crime, they don't call.
Yeah. So unless they're getting robbed or unless an employee is stealing from them, they don't care about the product walking off the shelf because, well, they're going to make their money off of the remaining product so that person can have theirs. And, you know, so I could go off on so many tangents here when we talk about shoplifting that it's just crazy, because when people say, oh, well, they're stealing because they're hungry. Well, then go steal from the store, from the grocery store. You're not stealing high market panties because you're hungry.
Yeah.
You're not, so anyway.
But going
But
back
yeah,
to your overall crime, Steve.
yeah.
Every one of us has been to a neighborhood meeting.
Or a crime control meeting.
We've all been there, and it happens in our own neighborhoods. People will believe whatever they see on the news until it happens to them.
Right.
When it's their house, their car, their kid that got hurt, their wife that got assaulted or stalked, then that overall crime thing, they don't believe that anymore, because now they're one of the victims, and now
Yeah,
they'll truly care.
exactly. And I don't remember how exactly you put it, but you said ignorance. I know that, but that's, blind ignorance or something. Maybe that's what you said.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot when I'm out and about and I'm doing things, because I tell people sometimes, and sometimes have these conversations where I wish that I could go somewhere, anywhere, and just be ignorant of what's really happening. I mean, my stress level and my anxiety would go down so much if I could just be a normal person, somebody that's never been involved in this, somebody that's never seen what real crime does, how real crime impacts people, and how even the smallest crime impacts people. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's blind ignorance until, like you said, when it hits the front doorstep, that's when somebody becomes aware of what's really going on out there. And then, of course, they want to know. Well, I thought you said crime was down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it in my neighborhood until 2 weeks ago when they ran through and 16,000 cars were burglarized. And now it becomes a my issue. And like Andy said, and Andy, I'd even go a step farther because I don't think it's a major city issue. I think it's an issue all across the country, from small town to big city. The three of us worked in one of the largest areas in the country, as far as per cap, the number of people at any given time in our city. So, but because of what we allowed to happen for the last 8 years, and specifically for the last 5 years, because we've allowed to happen, these criminals have become emboldened, and they realize that nothing's going to happen, and that whoever's running the agency is going to cater, like we said off air, to special interest groups, and the state attorney's office is going to cater to special interest groups. And one of our problems with this kind of stuff, with how safe do you really feel, is cashless bond. This within the last 5 years, this has become a thing. And so it's a revolving door. We're just allowing these guys to get out every 10 seconds. And so when somebody says, it makes my skin crawl. Overall crime is down. And like Brian said, if the place that you work at, that your biggest problem is people breaking into cars, people breaking into houses, and all of a sudden that stops because you put a lot of people in that area and you do the broken windows, yeah, crime's going to trend downwards. When you live in a city where they only have one homicide a year, if that, when I stop having, vehicle burglaries, my crime's going to go down. But when you're in that same small city and you now have 6 homicides this year, and the chief of police or the sheriff of the county gets on the news and says, "But overall crime is down." And you go, "Yeah, but my neighbor next door was murdered 2 nights ago."
Yeah.
Crime is not down in my area, and it doesn't have to be violent crime, but violent crime in this country is on the rise. It's not on the way down. And people, and if I go down 2 or 3% in violent crime, and people want that to be like a pat on the back. "Oh, good job, guys. Good job. You've reduced violent crime by 2%." But ultimately, and I know we're not going to get rid of all crime. We're not going to get rid of every homicide, but I want violent crime to go down more than 2%, where I'm at.
Steve, I
So,
think you hit a nail on the head there with the prosecution side. I mean, as long as George Soros and people that hate America are going to be allowed to fund and bankroll prosecutors in every major city in America, and then I find there no coincidence the fact that where you see these Soros bankrolled prosecutors, those same major metro cities are either underreporting or not reporting crimes anymore to the FBI's database. And once you strategically remove, say, Detroit or St. Louis, Houston, these major violent cities from the FBI database, of course, you can pad numbers and make it look like, oh, overall nationwide crime is going down. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the nexus between this ultra push for these prosecutors that do not want to be prosecutors. They're like wholesale defense attorneys for the bad guys, and then at the same time you see that same ridiculous crime hiding nonsense. I mean, because at the end of the day, if crime was reported accurately in these areas, I think a lot more citizens would hold the elected prosecutors and state attorneys, whatever they are, hold them a little bit more accountable. But it allows them to hide, and it allows them to say, "Oh, we're doing better." And especially, a lot of the statistics come from prosecution. If you're just flat out dropping cases and everything, it allows the state attorney's office to say, "Oh, well, we're not experiencing as much crime now." And it's like, it's because you're
yeah,
not doing anything. You have
right.
all programs that are not working. No one
Yeah.
agrees that these programs are working, so it's easy to say that,
Yeah, and it's like you and I talked about before we came on air, you know, so many agencies, and I'm not talking specifically about my agency, but I've seen it done, but we're padding stats. We're reclassifying things to make things look better on. It's not the UCR anymore. I don't think anybody uses the Uniform Crime Report anymore. But
they're transitioning
yeah,
right out of the new system, and that's
yeah,
part of
and
the
it's all part of the federal government, bringing down the way that they want stats kept and stuff like that. But we're reclassifying burglaries to thefts and robberies to thefts, and so it's a way of padding stats. And I threw it up there over top of me, just to show you guys that Bill Moore was talking about, the overall stats versus raw crime stats. Um, I looked it up today, and so just specifically where the three of us work in Orange County, um, homicide deaths in the state of Florida, the per capita per 1,000 in the state of Florida is 6.4. In Orange County, it's 6.5. So, I mean, you want to look at real numbers, guys. I mean, those are the real numbers that are out there. Those are the things that we're talking about, and that's why I asked this question: how safe do you really feel? Because if you're watching this and you're watching it later, you're watching it now, you're not part of the law enforcement community. You're just somebody that dumb lucked onto my show, or somebody that follows me because a friend told you to, or whatever, and you're not involved in this, and you realize that crime is not down where you live. That's why I'm asking this question is, they tell you that crime is down, but do you really feel safe walking out your door, regardless, small city, big town? Did I say that right? Small town, big city. Either way, when you walk out your front door, I mean, yeah, maybe in your little neighborhood that you live in, you feel comfortable because nobody's walking up and down the street with guns. But like Andy said, step into downtown Orlando one day and just imagine that probably, and I know we don't have a concealed carry anymore. I mean, it's you can carry without having to have a license. But think about it. I would imagine, and I'm making this stat up because everybody else makes stats up. So you know, I would imagine out of 10 people walking in downtown Orlando, 4 of them at a best guess, maybe more, are carrying a firearm. And I'm talking about at night. I'm not talking about during the day when business is going on. It may be less than that. It may be more than that. At night, could be more than that. Probably more than that, depending on where you're at downtown Orlando. In Orange County, it doesn't matter. But do you really feel safe? I mean, I'll tell you this right now. I don't. There's hardly a time I walk out the door where I'm not making sure that I've got something on me, because I don't know when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. And honestly, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about being my family. If
Yeah.
it comes down to it and I have to take action, I'm going to help you. But, you know, do you feel safe? I mean, that's what I'm asking you folks that are watching this is, do you feel safe? And I would imagine that most of you would probably say no. You know, when we look at the stats themselves, um, thanks, Al. I'm glad you agree with my made up stats. Yeah, I guess yeah, see that. I used to tell people all the time I'm not a stats guy, but realistically everybody else is, and so that's how we gauge things and our safety and stuff like that. Andy, this is a big one for you, I know, because you come from the federal side of it. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today is obviously the federal takeover in Washington, D.C. And, you know, everybody wants to scream and holler and, oh, he can't do that. Well, first of all, what most people don't understand is that Washington is not a city. Washington is a district. That's why it is called the District of Columbia. Washington, D.C. is a federally occupied land anyway. It is run by the federal government. It's not run by an individual police department. They just happen to be the ones who are contracted with the federal government to carry out the law enforcement that the Secret Service, the Capitol Police, the Marshal Service, the ATF, the DEA, they don't do burglaries, guys. They don't do car thefts. So this police department does those things for them. So when everybody wants to scream that he can't take over a police department, he's not. It's his police department, to be honest with you. And so it's in the Constitution, and the executive order is not something that, Congress wants to take it away, but yet where are they at right now? Where's Congress? All these guys are on TV talking about how they disagree with this and he can't do this, and we're going to take this ability away from him. And you know where they're at right now, guys? They're at home.
Yep.
They're not in Washington. They're not taking care of our business. They're busy bitching about a man who wants to make the city in which he lives right now safer. And the people that are criticizing that are bitching about him wanting to make places safer. So, Andy, tell us a little bit about Washington and what you know from that, and what you see, and what, your feelings on this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've got great experience up there. I worked downtown DC at the White House every day for a long time, and being Secret Service Uniform Division, they actually dual swear us with DC Metro Police. We work very closely with them, and when I was up there, we're talking between 05, 07. MPDC did a great job. I mean, they had some great cops that worked for them. They seem to keep a very clean, good city. The downtown National Mall area that everybody's familiar with, if you've been there on vacation or field trip at school or something. When I was up there at the time, we would go walking at night, and it's a big city, so you're always a little more on guard, but it was always safe. We never felt a problem down there. And I know things. My brother just went on vacation up that way, and just to hear the sad state of where it's gone, whether it be the homeless camps or just the flat out crime, regardless. But I'll tell you one thing: coming as a former federal officer, DC is a massive, massive police city. Also, I mean, you can't go anywhere without bumping into 5 different federal agencies. You go to lunch somewhere, and there's guys from Border Patrol, there's guys from Secret Service. You name it. You've got federal cops everywhere in that city. So, I see it this way. You have a massive troop already of guys and girls that want to do police work. And most of them do a federal job that is very boring. Especially those poor Secret Service guys. It's a very important job, but it's very boring. A good day at work is nothing happens. So I bet if I know anything about the federal police officers and agents up there right now, they are probably very excited to get out there and go do some street level police work.
Right.
And there is plenty of them up there to just take care of business, man. So
I've seen some videos here recently of some guys, and they're,
and
mix them walking together.
they have every tool available that you could name. I mean, the latest, greatest tech, whether it be drones, whether it be we were talking about earlier the shot detection devices that they have in the city. They've had that for a long time. And sadly, in Washington D.C. alone, the stats for 2024 is only 2% of shots fired in the city resulted in 911 calls. And there's not a square inch inside of Washington, D.C. where somebody could fire a gun and be like, that fits in with the air. Like where I live, you hear gunshots every day, but it's people shooting out back on their property. There's nowhere like that in D.C. Any gunshot in D.C. is a massive concern and should result in a 911 call. So when 2% are resulting in 911 calls, we've got a big problem here. So I look forward to seeing what all the federal officers and agents in D.C. can do over there.
Yeah, and they're already making. I mean, I don't know the stats offhand. I saw something today, and I didn't read too deep into it, but I mean, there's already been plenty of arrests made, to start cleaning up the city. So, and Brian, coming from the local stuff, and I have my opinion, and I have, I can share on this too, but I want to get your viewpoint on it, because being a local cop, when you were there, and you hear things like this, you hear a chief of police or a sheriff or whoever it is, a county commissioner or whatever, and they get on there and they say, oh yeah, well, overall crime is down, and you're one of the troops, and you're the ones that you're one of the people that's really doing this job. I mean, is it discouraging? Is it, do you, at that point, do you just go, okay, are they just blowing sunshine because they want to get reelected? They want to get reappointed? Or are they really that out of touch with what's going on that in their feeble minds, crime is down. I mean, do the troops talk about that? Do you guys, when you're sitting around drinking coffee or eating donuts like we like to do, what are the guys, what are the guys saying? What are you feeling when somebody tells you that? Because I mean, I'm not saying it's, it's just laughable at sometimes, I think.
Yeah, I think when you work for an agency, when somebody in your government or an agency head comes out and makes some sort of statement along those lines, it's disheartening. And one of the things we were talking about pre-show by text too, the change in policing. My current job, and even when I was handling discipline when I was still working, there's a big loss of integrity, and you really can't blame people as much when the people that are in front of the news cameras are what do I see in my world? They're omitting details. So they're not
Right.
lying, they're omitting details.
Right.
So, it is disheartening, because then when somebody's integrity is called on the line, they just point at the people at the top, and they're like, well, why is it okay for them to do it? And, it's not okay for me. But
And even not so much the people at the top, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's, the people that the top takes care of. And we've talked about this with Bill Moore. I think Andy and I have talked about this. You and I have probably talked about this. But the inconsistent discipline, because of a lack of leadership, which is all it turns back to, is the lack of leadership. When stuff like that happens, because my question to you was, when I sent you the text message today, was, do you see a direct correlation between the increase in the number of investigations and the changes in the style of leadership, or philosophies of policing? And the reason I asked that question is because for the last 5 years, maybe 8 years, maybe 20 years, we have seen law enforcement leadership take a knee. We have seen law enforcement leadership get on the news and say, yeah, it looks bad. And to the people that are out there actually doing the job, most of these guys haven't been in front of a person that's cussing at them in quite some time, unless, of course, it's me standing in their office and I'm cussing at them. But most of them haven't been involved in real police work for quite some time. And so, to me, that's why I asked you that question, because it seems to me that the leadership and the policing style, the touchy-feely that we've gotten to, and the hands-off approach that we've gotten to, has led to the increase in investigations, which leads to morale problems, which leads to how safe do you really feel? Because when, we were talking beforehand about how, most cops today, uh, most young cops today have been trained to take reports. And that's all they want to do. And that's all they can do, because we've trained it out of the system to do real police work. And so to me, that comes back to this tenfold. How safe do you really feel? Because when the guy who runs my district, my zone, is sitting at the target underneath the lights, writing a report for 3.5 hours, and my apartment complex is getting ransacked with vehicle burglaries, or my apartment complex has 3 shootings within an hour and a half, that's a problem to me. And so that's why I wanted to use your expertise on that, because I know you've been involved in a lot of the discipline hearings and stuff like that. And so I just didn't know, I mean, is that what you're seeing? Are you seeing a lot of guys that are just, you know, afraid of everything that's going on out there? They're afraid of the agency. So it's just, it's kind of, what I'm asking you, I guess, is leadership beating these guys down to the point where they don't want to do anything? And so now my community is less safe because my guy is not out here trying to get guns, dope, bad people off the road.
So I think there's kind of two legs of this. You definitely have plenty of that out there. You get the people They don't want to be in trouble. They don't want to be on the news. They don't want to do anything that is going to, cause them any stress.
Right.
If they can come to work and take their calls, so to speak, keep their supervision happy, perfect. Now, that may not make their squad mates happy, because we all know, regardless of the era, you have the worker bees and then you
Right.
don't.
And you still do, yeah.
But at the same time, you do have the cops that are out there, and they are still beating the bushes, finding the bad guys, and that runs great until they have that high profile arrest. That because the bad guy knew the mayor, or somebody was injured, or the video just happened to come out because it was a slow news day, and they public records request all the video from Friday night, and now they see this foot pursuit that led into 3 guys arresting somebody, and it looks bad, and so discipline is generated because it looked bad. So now these guys are being just absolutely beat up in social media. Very few of the news stations will just report the facts. They've got to put their spin on it. And then, depending on the agency, most cases take 3 to 4 months. And so for 4 months, these guys are, not sleeping, worried, may or may not have been relieved of duty, may or may have not had their overtime taken away from them, all going through this because in this day and age, everybody gets to see now what really happens after the sun goes down when the cops are out there doing their job.
Right. And what I think I hear you saying is, and this is my opinion, but I think this is along the lines of what you're saying, is from what I've seen, and because I'm still in touch with a lot of guys, and so I still see a lot of the investigations that are going on, but we are investigating people more based on outcomes than we are actual policy violations or statute violations, where they're criminal or something. We're disciplining more people on perception about how it looked or the outcome of the case rather than whether these guys actually violated any kind of policy or law.
There are agencies out there currently today. They will open an investigation to see if they can find a policy violation. Not that they know of there's a policy violation, or they've seen something that would make them believe, but due to outcry, due to a complaint, to the chief or whatever it may be, they open an investigation to see if they can find a policy violation. And those to me are the worst, because now, you made a good arrest, they made a good arrest, whoever it was, and now, it's Tuesday morning on Sports Center, and now they're critiquing the game.
I've seen this, and so I want to ask you if you've seen this, or either one of you have seen this, especially you, Brian, because you've been involved in a lot of it. I've seen them open investigations without a complaint. Like there's no victim to
Correct.
a specific, because we had one with an excessive use of force. There was the victim didn't come forward. The guy we arrested didn't come forward and say, "Oh, they used too much force on me." He pled guilty and everything went away. But an investigation was opened up because of what somebody saw on a video, not a policy violation, but a perception that there was an impropriety. And what's my favorite one that they use? Unsatisfactory performance. That's the one that they like to do. Now, I know a certain agency, and it shall remain nameless, but it's local, where they, when you are charged with something, when you are brought up, when they pull a tracking number on you for an investigation, they don't list your charges anymore. They don't list which policy you violated. They don't list which code of conduct you violated. And that's what you're talking about, is they're looking to see if they can find something. So they open an investigation, and at the end of it, that's when they go, okay, these are the ones that we decided that you fit into. whether it's language and behavior. But my favorite is the unsatisfactory performance. I don't know where they get that from. So it's funny to me that, and again, like you said, and my feeling is, and Andy, you can chime in on this as well, that because we are eating our own, because we are opening investigations without complaints, because we are doing this type of thing, guys are just tired of doing. We're just tired of going out and making that arrest, because it's easier for me to go through an 8-hour shift, 11 and a half hour, 12-hour shift, and write a couple of tickets and write a few reports than to take somebody to jail, and them, if they do make a complaint, or if there's a video camera rolling when something goes on that somebody didn't like, the media jumps all over it. It just feels like guys are just, they're tired. And to me, that's what makes us more unsafe. I mean, you know, when the guys that you've decided are there, you're hiring them to protect your citizenry, and that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And when you've defeated them and beat them relentlessly with, I don't know, pizza parties, um, you know, does it make us more safe? I mean, are we really, are we really, are we doing these investigations to make our agency better? Or are we doing these investigations to make ourselves feel better, and so that the media won't call us and go, how come you didn't fire that guy?
Yeah.
Well, I did, but we have arbitration and he got his job back. That's not the way in most sheriff's office in the state of Florida. They don't have binding arbitration. So is that what we're doing? I mean, are we just beating these guys so bad that we're morons? I feel that way, but what do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of buddies that are still in the career field, and everything you just said is pretty much what I hear from them. And I've got a lot of buddies that were some amazing proactive law enforcement, the kind of guys you want out there going after the worst of the worst. And it's sad to see, very prematurely in their careers, that fire has just died out in response. And like my former agency is not even one of like the worst offenders of it. I think they've still got it pretty good. Yeah, I can only imagine some of these, big cities in like California and other areas like that, the kind of stuff that law enforcement's dealing with. And what really makes this dangerous is they are hiring new recruits for a multitude of reasons. They're having problems filling out, getting enough applications, so they're taking people that they would have never looked at before. But it really seems that recruiting efforts are going into the kind of cop that's going to come on duty and only want to do reports, or go make dance videos, or take pictures with the kids at the park and all that. And that's great and all that, but at the end of the day, this is law enforcement. We're here to keep the community safe. And I constantly see graduation videos from my former agency, from a lot of different agencies on social media, and I can just look at the pictures and just tell you, like, none of those are going to be go-getters, man. Like, this is like a completely different culture we're bringing into law enforcement. And you want to talk about feel safe? What happens when the entire generation that did real deal police work, real aggressive, good, keep the community safe kind of law enforcement? What happens when they all retire out and all you have left is this new generation of law enforcement that is, they don't think anything's wrong with the system, because hey, this is great. All I got to do is write some paperwork and then go do a dance video on TikTok. Wonderful. It's like, this is not law enforcement, man, and it has a downstream effect. I tell you, just watch, say, the Orlando Police Department, for an example, obviously my former agency. Just look at the amount of social media posts for their drug arrests. What patrol guys are getting on a daily basis, the amount of guns and drugs that are coming off the streets right now is insane, compared to when Brian and I were out there stopping every car we possibly could just to try to find a dime bag of coke. Because bad guys clearly, and I've talked to some guys that work in the drug community, and they've confirmed this, they clearly feel safe carrying out that kind of criminal enterprise right now. You know, drugs, guns, the whole thing. They're not afraid law enforcement's going to interdict them and their criminality. So, you know, that's a massive problem. This all ties back into, do you feel safe in your community? And things are changing. Meanwhile, I think the general public, they don't have any idea that you have a different kind of law enforcement now than you had 10 years ago. It's just not the same.
And like you were saying, and we're close to what you were saying, these guys retiring, because we're talking about the last 8 years. You know, that's what we've kind of focused our attention here today. 8 to 10 years, and for city agencies, 20 and out. So in the next 10 years, 10 to 15 years, because if you go for a sheriff's office in the state of Florida, it's 25 years. So within the next 10 to 15 years, and most of those guys are older than that. Okay. So most of those guys that we're talking about, the go-getters and the guys who are busting a hump trying to get stuff like that, they've been on for 15 years. So they're closer. We're 5 to 10 years away, probably, from the majority of those guys being gone. And what's left is what you're talking about, the TikTokers, and I know you follow the guy on Instagram that talks about women in law enforcement and has a lot of videos about social media guys that get on there and do the stuff, the videos and stuff. And just imagine, the guy that rides your district is busy doing a TikTok video when, the shootings happen. Where was my guy that was supposed to be in my neighborhood? Oh, he was at Publix doing his TikTok video with the blue lights in the background,
Yeah.
And so we're just, I don't know, we talked about it beforehand. We're at a point where we are actually, we're breeding intentionally, I think, an era where we're just going to see, we're already seeing it, we've seen it. But we're going to continue to see an era in law enforcement where we're breeding guys that are just going to take reports and going home at the end of the day. And, I get it. Our jails are still full, so it's not like we're not doing our job, but it just seems like less and less like there's less of it going on, to be honest with you.
Steve, I don't want us to be like CNN and just be all gloom and doom. There are some chiefs, and we know who they are, because a lot
And
of
sheriffs
us got to work with. There are chiefs and sheriffs that are out there and all across the country that they are breaking the norm, so to speak, and they're fighting back, for lack of better terms. And those chiefs, those sheriffs are, by their troops, are respected more than anybody else. And I know there's a large municipality that is busier than they ever have been. They're being asked to do more than they ever have been. But I will tell you that at least the upper echelon of that agency is out there with the troops.
Right.
And that you talk to the young guys, they don't know anything about the chief or they don't know anything about the sheriff. But when they were at the parade or at the protest or whatever it was that they got ordered to be at, the guy that signs their check was out there too.
Yeah. And you and I both know a sheriff that, well, I know him because he was on my traffic stop. I had a sheriff that I worked for that I've been in a foot pursuit with, and nowadays I'm not so sure what a lot of these guys, and I'm not just talking about my agency, I'm talking about everywhere because you see it on the news every day. But I'm not sure what I'm not sure what some of these guys are doing. I mean, basically, it's wake up, put your uniform on, go to the office, sign a couple of papers, do a couple of press conferences, go grab some lunch with your buddies, and then you head back to the house, and that's the end of your day. And you might get called out for, an officer-involved shooting or maybe a mass unaliving that, requires you to respond to. But, when you have, and we talked about this, when you have a news conference and the people that are asking the questions are smarter than the cops that are answering, that's where our problem is. It's a leadership deal, what does this mean for the chain of command? What do you mean? What's the chain of command? I mean, when that person's answered that question, and I don't want to get too far into that one because I don't know if she's asking, to clarify the question, like, what do you mean as far as who are you asking? Who, do we answer to or this or that? Maybe that was her reasoning. I mean, the look on her, well, I guess I kind of gave that one away who I was talking about. The look on her face when she was asked that question and that was her response was, what do you mean? I kind of felt like she really didn't know what they were asking her, about a chain of command. And so, I mean,
But Steve, you could think it was a one-off if we hadn't seen this before, but we talked about
I
it
just
on your
saw it in New
show.
Orleans a couple of months ago.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, I've said this over and over again. I'm not harping on the female thing because that's not what this is. I'm talking about leadership. When you have somebody in New Orleans who their first day on the job, man, if I'm whatever they call her, and she's not the chief of police. What is she called? I don't know. She's not called the chief of police. I don't know what they call it there, but day one, when I'm walking in the office, I know what my capabilities are, what resources I have, what technology I have, what's available to me. And when she gets interviewed after a terrorist attack, and she says, "Well, I didn't know that we had that. I didn't know that this was available." Why not? Why not? And that's why I'm asking these questions of, do you feel safe? Do you really feel safe? Because it's not a female thing, it's a leadership thing. It's leadership, across. I mean, look in California. You just had 2 officers that were relieved of duty because they were on a traffic stop, and because they can't enforce immigration laws, they made a phone call and they said, "Hey, just so you know, this car is driving around. The 2 guys that are in it are illegal. We can't do anything about it. You guys go take care of it." They go out and take care of it, and these 2 guys are gonna end up getting disciplined, probably fired, because they violated a policy of the agency in which the 2 people that they got caught were here illegally, were criminals, and should be deported, and they're gonna, and I get it, it's California. So, we're talking about, we're comparing apples to Corvettes here, when we're talking about the difference in law enforcement mentality, not by the cops, but by the upper echelon, the administrations, the government itself. But I mean, as somebody in California, can you feel? I mean, whether you're on the left or the right of this issue, can you feel safer knowing that my cops stopped 2 criminals and they got in trouble because they offered them up to the people that can deal with it?
I just work in the executive kind of work that we do behind the scenes. I've talked to some very, very prominent executives for major U.S. companies that would do a lot of summits in the San Francisco area. They loved it, and it was a great place for them. They would go there yearly, and the last time that they had gone out, they were traumatized from what they experienced, whether it was what was laying on the sidewalks from somebody that didn't want to go find a restroom, all the way to the needles, to the flat out crime there. And it's sad,
Yeah.
big U.S. cities like that, we just let them go, and
Yeah.
how do you turn that around is the big thing here.
Yeah,
How do
I
you
mean, 'cause
recover from that?
if you're not the premier of China or a huge government
Yeah,
official coming to San Francisco, they're not gonna clean the streets up for you,
yeah,
you know? So, and honestly, you know, eh, given the same circumstance here in the city of Orlando, I would imagine that, if someday, uh, in the near future, our president decides that he wants to meet in Orlando and he wants to bring in, whoever, you know, Bibi Netanyahu or whoever, I would imagine that weeks before that takes place, the city of Orlando would be spotless, and you turn around and go, well, why isn't it like this all the time?
yeah,
Why can't our cops do this for us all the time?
yeah,
And Bill's right. I don't know if you guys saw Bill's response, but um, ICE, has offered incentives for people to become agents. And there's a lot of sheriffs in the state of Florida that have gone, oh, well, you're poaching, you're pulling our people away from you. Well, first of all, poaching has been occurring for as long as I can remember. Between inner agencies. I mean, there's plenty of guys. It may have happened, but probably only after retirement. But I don't remember many guys coming from Orlando to Orange County. But there was, for the longest time, in probably between 10 to 15 years ago, a lot of guys were leaving Orange County to go to the Orlando Police Department because they were getting paid, getting paid a lot better. So yeah, Bill's right. I mean, ICE is getting ready to come in and take a lot of 5-year officers, deputies from these agencies that, hey, I can go work for the federal government. I can travel if I need to, when they want me to. I can make all this money. I could still do the kind of stuff that I'm doing now because the go-getters are going to go get that money because the federal government is gone. Here you go get them. And so, yeah, and with that, does Orange County, does Brevard County, does Pasco County become less safe because we're not paying our cops, because we're basically putting a master lock on the holster, and you can't draw your gun, and we're putting handcuffs on the officers and the deputies and saying, okay, you can't do your job, but go do your job. And so, again, I ask those of you who are not law enforcement related, do you really feel safe? And even the guys, that are law enforcement, I'll be honest with you. I live in a small city that's getting bigger every day, but I can't tell you that in certain parts of the city, I feel safe. And some of those parts aren't the worst parts of town. Uh, when I have to go across the border into the next county where I used to work, I don't feel safe because I know what goes on there. And I know the kind of people that are taking advantage of the lacks in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I think anybody that doesn't work in law enforcement, the something for them to understand. Everybody knows a street that you just don't speed on in your hometown. Like if you're in Seminole County, if you go down Tuscaloosa Boulevard or whatever, and you go any faster than 35, you're probably getting a ticket. I mean, at least it was that way for a long time. So the same way that a law-abiding citizen knows areas where law enforcement is very prevalent and it's not a good idea to speed. Criminals also get to know areas where law enforcement is able to do their job and where they're being proactive. And I think nationally right now, I mean, and I've heard it from, I have a lot of friends across the country and in the federal level. It seems to be a popular opinion that, the criminals are laughing at law enforcement. Like I even had one friend, a former confidential informant of ours, ran into him at a plaza over off Orange Blossom Trail and was like, "You guys need to start doing your job again, man. Like it's dangerous out here for us." And this is a criminal saying this to the police.
yeah,
So,
right.
like
Yeah.
if the criminals don't feel safe out there, God help us. And
Yeah.
and like I had mentioned previously, I just keep looking at the downstream effect of it. It's bad now, but what happens when we just keep compounding on this for another 5 or 10 years? It's
Yeah.
it's going to change everything that we know about safety, and I think a lot more people are going to have to start realizing you need to take your family's safety very seriously. And I certainly wouldn't rely on 911 as your primary way to keep yourself safe.
Yeah. Brian?
I mean, the last thing I was going to say is people need to pay attention who they're voting for.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not a right or a left thing. It's not
Right.
because there are R's and D's and I's out there that all do a fantastic job.
Sure.
And I too live in a small town, and got a small police department, but I always see them out there. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys, and I don't know how busy they are, but at least they're visible,
Yeah.
and that's a great thing.
Yeah. And honestly, that's a big thing.
But people have to remember, if you live in a city, your city government picks your police chief. So who you put in office in your city impacts who your police chief is, because you can't vote your police chief in and you can't vote your police chief out.
Right.
If you live in a county, you need to pay attention who's running for sheriff. And the best way to find that out is, one, talk to your neighbors, because half people don't talk to their neighbors. So find out what your neighbors think. Maybe your neighbor's house did get broken into. What was the response like? And then if you see somebody in uniform, try to have that conversation of, hey, how are things going for you? They're not going to answer the question of, what do you think of the sheriff? Just ask them how things are going, and then pay attention to the platforms of the people that are running for sheriff.
Right.
Because until you start doing those things aren't going to change, because the boots on the ground and the people you don't see behind the scenes that are all busting their butts, they can only do so much.
Yeah. What I was going to say is it's not enough to think, well, as long as I'll call 911 and somebody shows up, then everything must be good. Because the person that is running the place, they could be absolutely horrible. And when it comes down to, like you said, Brian, when the guys that are doing the work aren't confident in the person who's running the place, it's a very, Marshall just commented, talking about, people are scared. And I'll tell you, and I've said this before on this platform, that my last couple of years, I was more scared to go to work and what the agency was going to do to me than, getting shot, because I got all this cool stuff on me that is probably going to help save my life. But, back to what we talked about, when the one person that has a video camera rolling at the time decides that they're going to give that to the media, and the media doesn't like what they see, now I'm in trouble with the agency for doing my job when I actually was right in doing my job. And, we three talked about this before we came on the air. If I ran for sheriff and I won the election, what my first conversation on day one with the news media present is to have a conversation and to let people in the county where I was elected know, hey, first of all, we're done catering to special interest groups. Everybody in my county is a special interest. You all deserve the same service that everybody else gets. No one group of people of background deserve any more or any less service from this place than anybody else, no matter what part of the city, county you live in. The second thing is, you can stop being a critic of law enforcement, because I'm not going to give you the time of day. If something happens, I'm going to get in here. I'm going to explain our side of it, how we look at it. If you don't agree with that, you've never agreed with law enforcement in the first place. But special interest is done as far as I'm concerned, because that in and of itself has crept into law enforcement and has in lots of places created a division in the agency and in the county. And eh, people talk all the time about over policing an area. In my opinion, there is no such animal as over policing. If all the crime is happening in this area, then that's where all the cops are going, guys. And so the reason you don't like it is because you want to be able to do the crime that you want to do. You want to be able to live here and commit crime, or you want to be able to come here and commit crime, because that's where I can commit crime and there's not going to be a lot of cops. So the reason you don't want a lot of cops in your area is because you want to do bad shit and you want to get away with it. So when you get on here on television and the right reporter sticks the microphone in the right person's face and they start criticizing, oh, there's too many cops in this area, that's why, there's so many arrests here. No, there's so many arrests there because you guys are doing stupid shit and you deserve to go to jail. I don't care who you are. If you're in Taft and you're in Christmas, or if you're in Windermere, if you're doing stupid stuff that violates the law, we're done with you. and we're going to be aggressive. We're going to pursue you. We're going to put you in jail, and we're going to present, hopefully to the right state attorney, a case that's going to put you away as long as we possibly can without George Soros and the left saying, well, yeah, but we're not going to make you pay bail and you're going to get out and you're going to be able to go back and commit crime. I don't know. I guess I'm on my soapbox again. And Danny, you're right. There's a lot of guys, a lot of agencies out there that are more concerned with social media presence. And I'm not talking about the good social media. I'm not talking about the people that they put on there that do a great job. And like Andy was talking about, the dope seizures. I know Orange County just had one where they had the two the dogs themselves, not even the deputies, standing by the seizure that they had next to the vehicle. Lots of dope. Those are the kind of social media posts that we need to have, because we need to let these people know that we're coming for you, that these guys are out there, these dogs are out there, and we're going to find it. Like Andy said, these cops that are out there, because the bad guys think right now that I can move tons of dope and nobody's going to do nothing about it, because you're not going to do a traffic stop because you don't want to, call your supervisor. We don't want that to happen. We don't want somebody, I'll call your supervisor. And then we get into a tasing event. We drag somebody out through a vent window, and then the media is on it and the body cam's on it. And so now it looks bad. So now we're opening an investigation, not with a complaint, because again, the Jacksonville one we talked about several weeks ago, he pled guilty, never once mentioned in any of the trial for his crimes did he mention an excessive use of force, that they didn't have a right to pull him over. He pled guilty. Yep, I did it. It's over. And now he wants to sue the agency. So he's going to win. He's going to be the next millionaire in Jacksonville. But we've created that through leadership. And Brian, you're right. There are plenty of leaders in charge of agencies that are doing the right thing, that have decided that this woke mentality has caused a great issue and burden to where they work, and they're done. And unfortunately, in the era that we live in, the day and time that we live in, these social media sheriffs and police chiefs and whoever else, they're afraid of that. They're afraid to do their job because they're afraid of what's going to get said on the news. And these other guys are like, okay, yep, you didn't like it. All right, well, I can't remember where the sheriff. It was Jacksonville when they had the shooting, and he basically said, "It's one more bad guy we don't have to worry about, because if he's willing to shoot at a cop, he's willing to kill anybody else out there." So we need more of that. We need more of those guys, to make people feel safe, to go out and do their job, because the day of catering to the special interest, the day of catering to social media, has got to come to an end, or violence is going to increase. That when we were talking, Andy, and I meant to mention it then, but we were talking about Washington, D.C., and we were talking about how all of these people, or we didn't talk about it, but I wanted to mention it. You have all these people on the left. I've seen there's some nut jobs out there. "Oh, I'm leaving Michigan right now. I saw this guy today. I'm driving to Washington. I left my wife and my kids and my job, and I'm driving from Michigan to Washington, D.C. because number 47 is out of control, and I'm going to stand with my fellow citizen." Wake up, dude. Wake up. The stuff that the left is putting out there. Oh, well, crime is actually down. If you look at the numbers, crime is down. Well, the numbers they're reporting are from 2024, because they're using 2024 stats. They're using January 25th when the stats were released for 2024. They're using those stats to determine that crime was down. Well, in actuality, this is year to date from this time in 2024 to this time in 2025. In Washington, D.C., homicides are up 14%, robberies are up 25%, carjackings are up 40%, which is among the highest per capita in the U.S. Motor vehicle theft is up 32%. Burglaries to vehicles are up 20%. Burglaries to houses and stuff like that is one of the only categories that are down, and they're down 5%. So if you're going to quote stats, folks, at least quote the stats that are current and not the past. And if you're a chief of police, and if you're a sheriff, and you want to get in front of a county commissioner or on the news and say, overall crime is down, be able to back it up, because once again, we talked about in Florida, homicides per 1,000, 6.4. Homicides in Orange County in 2020. This is 2023 because they don't have 2024 stats compiled yet. 2023 per 1,000 in Florida, population 6.4. In Orange County, 6.5. So you can't talk about being.
A big thing in DC is that they're calling it a federal takeover and all this nonsense. This is nothing new where the federal government steps in to quell a massive crime problem. A lot of the guys that were my instructors with Secret Service, you're talking guys that had 20, 25 years on, would show us a lot of pictures from their days, at the Foreign Missions Branch for Secret Service. They do obviously protection role, but they also do a little bit of a police role, and they work very close with MPDC. But they had a gun initiative in DC because shootings were through the roof, robberies left and right. Nobody felt safe to go anywhere, even on the National Mall area. So we would hear nothing but stories. And there's actually a monument. I want to say it's in front of the Justice Department or somewhere in DC, where they melted all these firearms that they seized from bad guys. Not good law-abiding citizens' firearms, but actual criminals just running around using firearms. They made a massive monument from all of it, and it's incredible to see it and to hear how well all of the federal agencies work together and turn DC. I want to say it was like early '90s era when this went down. They turned DC from a place that nobody wanted to go. Schools were canceling field trips and stuff there just because it was so dangerous. And they cleaned house over several years and put bad guys away, and it turned into a ghost town for criminals, which is beautiful. And it is our nation's capital. It's a beautiful city. It is amazing to visit, and every single American should feel safe traveling to their nation's capital, to go take their family and go show them around the historic sites and how, all our government buildings.
Yeah.
To even entertain the idea of it being one of the most dangerous areas in the country again is disgusting. And what is the president to do at this point? Nothing, and just let it keep going because you have these ultra leftists that sadly run the DC government, whether it be the police department or you name it. Marion Bowser, they don't care about people's safety. They only care about politics, padding their pocket and their power in office, and to hell with safety for everybody else there. And
Yeah.
I'm super enthusiastic to see this. I think it is going to be excellent results. I know a lot of the federal guys, because they're using, like FBI, for example. They have FBI police that they guard the FBI stuff. You have CIA police. You have all these different smaller branches of federal government they're trained up to the same standard as local cops and deputies that are bored to tears all over DC and not being utilized. So the fact that they're all going to basically be one giant task force now, I think they're using some National Guard too. They're going to be out there getting it, man, and they're going to enjoy it, and they will turn that city around in no time at all. They know exactly what needs to get done, and I look forward to our nation's capital being returned to a beautiful and safe city again, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and honestly, there's no reason that can't be everywhere. I mean, I get it. We're not going to get rid of all crime, but every city in this country, there's, people want to call it a police state. That's not the case. Understand, folks. We are trying the cops that are out there, the people that that raise their right hand and took an oath and strap on a gun and badge every day. They understand the risk, okay? But at least when I started and you guys started, the idea was I'm going to make a difference and I'm going to go put bad people in jail. That's my goal. That's my job. That's what I want to do. Is I want to put bad people away because I want the people that live here to feel safe.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that can't be the case everywhere. And that doesn't mean that we violate people's rights and we go out and just do big roundups and this and that. I'm talking about we're putting criminals in jail and again, like I said, if you have a problem with us doing our job and putting criminals in jail, then you're part of the problem. You're the issue here. And you know, I want the people that live in the numbered streets in Apopka. I want the people that live on the numbered streets that have been there and on the South Orange Blossom Trail, in Windermere, in Taft, in Oviedo. I mean, not Oviedo, but Christmas, Bithlo. I want all of those people, and Oviedo. I don't have anything against people in Oviedo. They can have people that put bad people in jail too. But I want those people that have lived there for the last 50, 60, 70 years that can't walk out the side of their front door because of the crap that's going on to feel safe once again, to let their kids play in the front yard on in the numbered streets of South Orange Blossom Trail. You know, most of a lot of places down there have, you know, chain link fences around their yards and stuff, but you still can't let your kids play out there because you don't know when somebody's going to drive by and shoot at the idiot standing on the corner who's selling dope, you know, because he owes them money. You know, that's we need to get back to tough law enforcement and tough love, and people need to quit, you know, with this crap that we've had for the last few years. You know, it's just ridiculous, and so that's why I'm doing this show tonight. You know, I want people to ask themselves the real hard question: is do you really feel safe? Do you feel like the people that work for you, the people that are supposed to be there keeping you safe, are they able to do their jobs, and are they doing their jobs well? I'm not here to criticize. When I say, you know, like I said on my first show ever, I'm not criticizing to criticize. I'm criticizing because I see an issue and I want to make things better for people. And I think that the like Brian said, the guy that you vote for, that needs to be his goal as well. Whether he's a city commissioner who's going to tell the mayor that this is the guy we need, whether he's the sheriff that I voted into office, I need to know that that guy is on the same page with the people that deserve it, not the people who are against law enforcement that are never going to be for law enforcement. Whether it's you know, ingrained in them, whether they had a bad situation with somebody, we're never gonna change their mind. But I need to know that the guy that we're putting in place, the guy that I'm voting for, the guy that, you know, is appointing the guy who works for me, his job needs to be my safety. You know, and I'm not talking about, well, the city commissioner and the county commissioners too. That needs to be their focus. They have other shit to worry about. But the guy that they put in place, that guy needs to be focused on not being the TikTok sheriff or the you know, the chief of police that, you know, likes to uh, get on there and do the videos. And you know what? I don't know if you guys have seen them. I've seen them recently, but the social media people within the agencies that are going around on the inside of the agency, like they go into CID and they go, "Oh, here's Detective so and so today," and they're like, you know, putting on a show. They're not really doing any work. It's just all part of the plan, you know. Okay, we're gonna come into your office and I want you to hold up a piece of paper and show everybody that, oh, this is yeah, you know. I hate those videos. I really do, because that's not real. You know, you want to show me some real video, then get your social media people out there after the fact when all the shit just hit the fan, and show me what's going on at that scene, because I want to see what those guys are doing, because I want to see how they're protecting me. Not tactics, not during, and not all that kind of crap, but after the fact. I want to see those social media posts about we just got 18 guns off of, you know, out of one car. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see you doing a video about dancing to some song that has explicit lyrics in it. I don't want to see you, you know, throwing a pizza party for the appreciation of deputies. That's not what I want to see. You know, what I want to see is good, hardworking people who have the same focus that I have. That my safety is important to them because their safety is important to them.
Yeah, and how long have we done that social experiment now where, it seems like we're trying to be the performing arts center instead of the police department? And, thankfully it's not every agency, but
Yeah,
it's some degree nationwide, and it became like a popularity contest. And, what are the results of that? Have we lowered crime? Have we made people safer doing that? And I would
yeah,
argue say no. And the people now that you're attracting to want to be in law enforcement, oh man, I could go put that uniform on and be a YouTube celebrity of my sweet dance moves. Like, that's just not police work. I can't
right.
imagine going back to 19-year-old me in the police academy saying, eventually cops are going to be dancing around and oh, let's go shoot pictures mowing somebody's grass in uniform and shit. It's like, what does that have to do with law enforcement?
Yeah.
Like I'd look at all of them and say, are we going to do some police work today or what?
Yeah.
We used to rag each other, in a squad full of alphas and midnight patrol and, constantly fighting for the, who's got the most arrests and all that. We would always just say, guys, we're going to do police work today or what? And now it's like that slogan's needed for, what you're seeing out there now. It's like, this is, come on. It's a fun job. It's a fun career. It is fun to put bad guys away. It's fun to get in foot pursuits and vehicle pursuits and all that. Let's get back to real law enforcement, because I think the majority of taxpayers really support law enforcement doing their job. I think they want an effective law enforcement. And I think the loudest voices that get out there and criticize us, they don't represent any kind of majority whatsoever. I think people are sick and tired and fed up with the stuff they're seeing on a national level with violence and crime and everything. And I'm waiting for it. I really hope we're going to see a resurgence of just some good old fashioned law enforcement work, and it's going to become cool again to put bad guys away. Get rid of all these Soros moron bankrolled state attorneys that are just keeping the revolving door flowing, and actually put bad guys away. And that's a big side of this is any law enforcement that that your true violent criminals are the same people over and over and over and over again are committing violent crime. It's not like every day you have somebody who decides, you know what, I'm going to go knock off a 7-Eleven at gunpoint today and fire a few shots. It's the guy that's done it 3 or 4 times and been let out nonstop. It's the same small, percentage of a community that are doing this kind of crime. And being a cop, when you stop a guy at 3 o'clock in the morning and you look at his history and he's been arrested for 50 some odd felonies and 32 misdemeanors, been in prison, it's like, how are you still out here? And how is it that you are allowed to be in our community right now? And it's just getting worse. It's getting worse and worse and worse. You see less prosecutions, and the more that we do that, the higher violent crime is going to be. Property crime, violent crime, it doesn't matter. It's all going to go up. We have got to put criminals where they belong. Yeah.
Brian, I'm going to let you have the last word on the topic. Once we get done, I'll have you guys stick around just so I can talk to you. But cool. Brian, give me your closing thoughts here on the topic, and take as long as you want or as little time as you want. It's
trying to rush us off. Going back to the DC thing real quick. And, we have lots of Leos, on with us tonight. And every one of us, I think, can remember it's not uncommon for federal law enforcement, all the branches, to come in and help when there's an issue. And this is one of those things that if you had a few sheriffs, a few chiefs get out there and be like, look, DC is unique because we talked about before that they're a federal jurisdiction to begin with. Yeah. But anytime in local communities, as long as a chief or a sheriff asks, the alphabet soup is more than happy to come help out. And I don't remember in Bill or Al, some of these other guys may remember, but I don't remember if it was home invasion or robberies, whatever we had a big uptick for, and it was hitting both the county and the city. And after a few months of it, there was, all the Orange County agencies had a task force along with everybody from the alphabet soup. And whatever we could put people in jail for and the highest crimes that could attach, when we started getting some of these people committing these home invasions and robberies, we get the local charges, but then ATF, they're taking over the gun charge. If there's money involved, the FBI and the Secret Service were jumping in. And within a few months, those rings were shut down. Yeah. But the general public doesn't know that because they just see the guys in uniform show up, because the alphabet soup, they're not the ones in front of the cameras. So it's not uncommon for the feds to come in and help when there's an issue. And again, it's the news media spin that is making this to be the big bad, wolves coming into town. And That's not the case. They're coming to town to help fix the problem. And every one of those DC local cops, I'm sure, is happy to have the help.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw, I don't know what the incident was yesterday. I saw it earlier, but I was somewhere I couldn't turn the volume on. But it's daylight. It's a call in DC. People are standing out in the street watching. It was 7 cars responding to the calls between marked and unmarked. And it's some call in a neighborhood. So this wasn't some, somebody just pulled a gun on the National Mall. It's in a residential area part of DC, and now there's 7 units responding. We all know if 7 units are going to a call, that's a bad day. So again, we've talked about it on numerous topics. People need to inform themselves, educate themselves, because what you're just hearing off of the major news networks is not the truth. And we talked about before, you can omit the facts and omit some details to make it the way you want it. But if you talk to anybody, major city, the federal alphabet soup comes in all the time to help when there's problems. And there's no agency that's waiting for the call. Let's go in there and make life miserable on people. The only people that want to make miserable are the bad guys, not the good guys. And like Andy mentioned before, the bad guys need to go to jail. And if you're a good guy, we all say this all the time. If you're a good guy, you should have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. I mean, yeah, and to your point, we had the string of Publix robberies that were going on, and we ended up catching the guys and had everything. And for whatever reason, our state attorney dropped the ball, and the statewide prosecutor picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when we have those things where people see an injustice or a disservice going on, they step in. Those groups step in. So they really help us out. And that was my whole thing early on when we were talking about Orange County, that was saying that they weren't going to help with ICE. First thing is, when it doesn't matter who the cop is, when you jump up on the radio and ask for help, there's a reason. And so when you tell somebody, well, we're not going to help ICE, and ICE comes up and says, hey, the dispatcher comes up and says, hey, ICE needs help, and they hesitate to go because, well, we're not supposed to help them. Well, let's go there and help them, and then we'll worry about the aftermath later on. So yeah, you're right. You're both right. And I appreciate you being on here and helping me out with this, because, I think it's a topic that we need to discuss, and hopefully the people that watch this later on, they ask themselves those tough questions. And like, all 3 of us have said, and others have commented in the comments, it's important when it comes to the vote, because that's honestly, that's when the rubber meets the road. That's the direction you're going to go, is the direction that guy takes you. And so that's what we have to look at. So thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I wanted to show you guys this before. Some of you have seen it on my page, but it's After the Call, First Responders Guide to PTSD. I just finished reading this, and I think it's a good read for anybody, even if you've never been diagnosed with PTSD, because those of you who are out that don't think you have PTSD, you might want to read this, because sometimes some of the things, like I said, I posted on here, the first 30 pages in this book, and my story was told by somebody else. And so that means that you're not alone, and that the things that are going on in your mind, you're not broken. And there's more to live for, and there's ways to get help. So if you're interested in that book, After the Call, First Responders Guide to PTSD, I got this off of eBay, or not eBay, but Amazon. So it's not a plug for Amazon, it's just a place you can get it. So I have had a little bourbon here tonight, so maybe my truth was a little more truthful. Got on my soapbox a little bit, but I appreciate you guys hanging out. I appreciate you guys watching, and leave me some comments. Send me an email, shoot me an email if you want to. Shoot me a text message, comment on the Facebook post. Remember, Facebook deletes everything after 30 days. So if you recommend this to a friend, you can always recommend it to my YouTube channel, which is same thing, Blue Truth and Bourbon on YouTube. So you can find us there. Guys, stick around when we close this thing out, and I'll talk to you guys. But thanks everybody for being here tonight, and I appreciate you, and hope you have a great weekend. And hopefully next week I'll have a new topic for you, and maybe some guests, or maybe I'll just get on here and shout out my opinion, and you can either like it or not. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for being here.